A wall-to-wall urban sprawl fills the very core of Cí-Cen, its bustling, overcrowded population willing to cast their vote at every election so their voices could be heard. A political shark with a hidden identity and nothing to lose, schemes and plots against every hero. Hi, I'm author Garrett K. Jones, and on the July edition of Forming Fantasy, I'm discussing the inspiration behind the Republic of Cí-Cen and one of its primary citizens, Senator Ceris.
I try to make new content every week, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube.
Hey, happy weekend. Before I get into the bulk of this week's video, I want to share with you how last week's ComicCon went. Here is some footage from the convention. One of the animator, right?
Character designer.
Character designer. Worked on Tailspin and a few other Disney favorites that I grew up on. Scrooge McDuck. It was fun more or less, but for me it kind of felt like a wash. It was definitely not San Diego Comic-Con, which was also this last weekend. I also sold only 3 books, which is kind of a bummer. But that's what's prompted me to aim higher, namely WonderCon in Anaheim, so I'll keep you posted on that. So here we go. The 5th kingdom in the 5 kingdoms, Cí-Cen was inspired by 2 trips to Rome, Italy. The most recent trip was in 2005, and it was memorable enough to really stick into my memory a bit better. I had always envisioned Cí-Cen in a similar fashion as the ancient Roman Republic, right on the cusp of imperial takeover and the socio-political collapse. So when I got a chance to visit the Roman Forum and the Colosseum, that especially prompted the creative wheels in my head to turn. The kingdom, which is politically set up as a republic, is one massive city where the urban landscape spreads out to its borders. Because magic was used in the construction of the city kingdom, Cí-Cen grew quickly over the course of the 200 years between the fall of Menenius until the modern timeline of my series. The city itself is broken into 4 districts: the Crafts District, the Garden District, and the Market District, and Iridizen, the realm of the Senate. The Crafts District resides in the northwestern sector of Cí-Cen, known for its artisans, musicians, and performers. It boasts several theaters, art galleries, and many other creative venues. While there are other artistic installations throughout the rest of the megacity, the Crafts District is where most of those venues are centered. The Market District covers the southwestern quadrant of the city, and as its name suggests, it's the focus for most of the shopkeepers and vendors, and it boasts a large avenue lined on both sides by an open-air marketplace. There are also many restaurateurs in this area as well. The inspiration behind the Market District was based on some of the outdoor markets that I encountered in my trips to Italy, like the open farmers market that takes place every weekend in the lakeside town of Salo, near Lago di Garda, and an avenue of vendor tents near the famous Leaning Tower in Pisa. The entire eastern half of the kingdom is covered by the Garden District, which is named because of the large expanses of land used as parks and botanical gardens. There are also natural springs, feeding fountains, and other water features. And while there isn't much natural landscape in the kingdom, it was important to incorporate this region to make sure that there were open spaces and that the city wasn't just an urban area. For this, I drew inspiration from Central Park in New York City, because just when you think you are still in the city, you were still surrounded by a lot of nature, even if it was put in place by man. So each of these districts elects representatives to stand in for them in the Cí-Cenian Senate, and the Senate is led by a chancellor. The Market and Crafts District each elect 50 senators, while the Garden District elects 100 because it's so large. This provides a total of 200 senators representing the people, and these senators live and work in Cí-Cen, serving 5-year terms. Senators can only serve 2 consecutive terms before they are allowed to campaign again. Some senators have used loopholes to work around that law by moving their home district to get re-elected. The kingdom does have agriculture and natural landscapes that exist near the outer wall where farms, ranches, and dairies help supply the kingdom's food needs and economy. What isn't produced within the city is imported, and every excess is exported. Cí-Cen also acts as a de facto capital of sorts for Cí-Cen as a whole. The Great Council, or the Council of Five, act as the ambassadors from the other kingdoms. They act as a check and a balance against any one kingdom taking over too much authority within the nation as a whole. They live within Cí-Cen, just as the Senate and the Chancellor do, though they have no authority within Cí-Cen. These dignitaries do communicate with their own kingdoms and the leaders from those kingdoms on a consistent basis to make sure that the needs of the entire nation, that is, the 5 kingdoms, are met. Sarris is a senator from Cí-Cen, originally hailing from the Crafts District. He is a politically officious man, savvy in the ways of government. He has served his constituents with distinction, but his loyalty to the people, despite all of his candor, is not what he claims it to be. He wants power, and quickly takes on the office of Chancellor of the Senate. His rise to power was far from natural. He uses his dark magic, which he learned at a young age from his father, to put himself in a position to be made Chancellor. He also uses said magic to influence government policies and laws in order to remain in office. Now, in the first 4 books in my series, he's only in this office for a few months or a year tops. As I'm writing book 5, Sarris has been Chancellor of Cí-Cen for 20 years. He's one of the craftiest and most cunning characters in the book, and oftentimes he's 5 to 10 steps ahead of any of the heroes. Any guesses as to who his father is? I drew my inspiration for Sarris from a few different historical figures. Initially, Julius Caesar, who heavily influenced his way into the position of Emperor of Rome, was one such figure for obvious reasons. Adolf Hitler was another. Despite his evil intentions, Hitler was a gifted orator and frequently rallied his people into unity to the point that by the time he started really discussing controversial solutions to enhance Germany's socio-political position in the world, most German citizens didn't bat an eye and justify their acceptance of the laws he put in place. Sarris does the same thing. I highly encourage you to read these books because you'll get to love these characters as much as I do. So that's it for this month's edition of Forming Fantasy. Next week is going to be the first of 5 videos as I start the month-long series of author awareness interviews. Next week I will feature Caitlin Brooke, an indie author from upstate New York. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support more like it, please log on to patreon.com/GKJpublishing, all lowercase, where you have 3 tiers of support from which to choose. Each tier comes with 24 hours early access to each of the vlogs, plus their own sweet perks. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all of my socially acceptable thoughts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to click like and subscribe. See you next week for Author Awareness August. Have a great weekend.